Let's add and remove everything, like a boulder and texture painted markings, or these plane tracks and some cool flags, or solve a camera and add your dream car. Welcome to part 1 of the Add and Remove Everything series. Cool, so let's jump straight into tracking some stuff. Go into your motion tracking, our footage, set our frame range for the scene. The shot sort of starts to get interesting from here. We reveal the garage door and stuff. So let's just say 200 to 400 frame. 200 to 400. Beautiful. That feels good, and I think we can prefetch that. Yep. And prefetching makes playback real smooth right away. Now we have to match the resolution. I wish there would be a button for that. So we have 3840 by 2160. Let's start setting some trackers so we can get to Blender 3.3's new plane tracker right away and put some interesting markings on the road. So I feel like this area here lends itself to some tracking. I like to jump into the middle of the shot and set my markers from there. I like to use affine as a setting, and affine has the tendency that it distorts at some stage, and being in the middle of the shot gives you the least amount of distortion because you go equally forward tracking as you go backward tracking, rather than going from one end to the extreme all the way through. So I found that gives me the least amount of error. Talking about it, here we go, found an error right away. If the tracker loses its position, I usually just nudge that handle there, make it a bit bigger and see how we're doing. Yep, just nudge it a little bit. We're going, oh wow, so this one struggles a little bit there. That didn't work. So let's just make this area, the search, a bit bigger. Got us a bit further. Okay, and that is the end. So overall, the preview window shows us a nicely sticking track this far. Nudge it a bit. So this can be cumbersome, but overall it gives you still reasonably good control over what you do. And hopefully this will be the most challenging tracker we started with here right away, because everything is ideally want a little bit less of this. But it's a good start for you guys to see that tracking can be cumbersome at times. This area here, and we include both of these dirt spots. Let's track backwards for a start. Whoa, look at this. This went super nicely right away. Forward tracking, a little bit of a hiccup there. Where are we? There. And there you see the skewing that happens with the affine. Not too bad in this case. Okay, so if the preview window of the tracker goes blank, then I tend to just zoom in rather than out, because obviously something is annoying it there. Maybe the search area was too big. And we have two trackers that sit nicely. Now let's go for two more so we can set our first plan track. Control, clickety click. And we go forward again. Oh, beautiful. All the way to the end, sticks nicely. I was hoping that we would find track points that get us a bit quicker through the process. Beautiful. Take this dirt patch there, control click, track backwards, sticks nicely, track forward. Oh, beautiful. This one went like a treat. So now you see we have 4 tracking points. Shift, click each of them, or just control A, and we go for plane track. Now, if we don't want to paint distortion, like in this case, I went further in the timeline and you see how the plane track is actually now, it's distorting, right? This is what you have to consider when you paint. If you don't want this, we can undo this plane track, go to a frame that we feel like has the least amount of distortion for what we want to do, and then create the plane track. Here's our plane track over here. Let's give this a, let's say, drive in, a name. Then we go onto a little drop down here, create image from plane marker. Let's open the image editor, drive in, and there it is. In order to edit it externally, we have to save it first. Drive in, Beautiful. And now we can edit it externally. So in order to get those nice washed out marks, they're weathered, they have been driven over rather than looking brand new. I'm going to show you a little trick that I found quite nifty, and it's relatively easy to achieve. Let's get a shape tool. There it is. Do we have flowers? Okay. I thought I would have arrows. No, well, let's go for flowers then. Let's take this one here. Beautiful. Okay, now rasterize that so we can deform it a little bit. So now we have somewhat lined up all the outline of the flower with guidelines we have from our concrete patch. Now let's get to the weathering. If I use the underlying layer to specify where the flower is transparent and stuff, we sort of see already where this is going to, but it looks like we were just fading it out, so we're not quite there. Duplicate, Control J, our background layer, create a curve, Alt click on the layers, so the curves will only affect that layer, but it's still doing everything. So we will have to Control select our flower, create a group, and give that group a mask from our selection. And we're gonna shove that in there as well. So what we have now, actually the curves, because we have a mask in our group now, we actually don't need to necessarily link the curves to our underlying layer. It is doing it already. So here's what our curves are doing. They darken the concrete below the flower. If we now select our flower layer and under blend if the underlying layer to create something like that, starts to look nice to me. Now we go back in the curves and maybe we just play a bit around with how the curve. So that looks good to me. And so what we have done is rather than just blending out the flower, we are actually revealing new information underneath, which is this darkish concrete patch. Okay, cool. Let's just merge these layers with Control E, save it. We go back in Blender. We open this image, pretty much just reloading it. There it is. And we scrub in our timeline. And guys, look at this. It sticks nicely, and it also bypasses Blender's sort of weak spot that you need to have 8 tracking points to create a solve. We have our first ground marking here.